What if the church didn't want anything from you, but wanted everything for you? Today, we're going to talk to a pastor slash entrepreneur who is leading a church that wants to help people experience transformation, not just spiritually, but in every area of their life. You don't want to miss this episode.
Welcome to the Monetize Your Ministry podcast.
And you get a chance to interact with them. To me, that's full-time ministry.
That I happy because task without Jesus is like a feed. It brings in itself and then it opens.
I want to provide content and things that will help change lives, and I simultaneously want you to receive a blessing from that.
Now here's your host, Kymone Hinds.
All right, welcome back to the Monetize Your Ministry podcast. I'm super excited. Listen, we've been adding more and more episodes every week, and I'm glad that you're here every week watching, listening, sharing. I want you to do just one favor for me this week, just one thing. If you are someone, if you've never listened to it on an audio platform before, or if you're listening on an audio platform, I need you to rate and review this podcast, especially on Apple and on Spotify. So even if you're watching it, you go over to Apple, go over to Spotify, and look up the Monetize Your Ministry podcast and leave us a rating and a review. Why should you do that? Here's why. If you do that, let me put my microphone in. If you do that, it'll help other people to find the podcast and get this good inspiration that you have a chance to hear every week. All right, that's my ask for this week. Go over to Spotify, go over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating and a review. All right, we have a guest today, friend of mine. I'm super excited today to welcome to the podcast, Muta Mwenya. Muta, welcome, my brother.
What up, man? What's happening? How are you?
Dude, I'm great, man. Let me give you a proper introduction. Muta is a speaker, entrepreneur, pastor, and coach. He is the founding and lead pastor of Relevant Church and also the founder and director of Relevant Leadership College. In addition to leading these two organizations, Muta speaks and coaches individuals, pastors, and entrepreneurs to overcome limitations and experience the abundant life that Jesus promised. Muta has written and published numerous faith-based and personal growth articles and curriculum, and set to be released in 2023, his new book, Undone, Overcoming the Curse of Almost. Man, I can't wait to read that. It's a personal development book focused on helping you to finally break the lid off your limitations and achieve the results that have seemed out of reach in your life. Man, y'all know you got to cop that book because so many of us are on that almost journey. Muta and his wife, Christine, live in Indiana with their three boys, Isaiah, Elijah, and Jeremiah. My brother, great to have you on today.
What's happening, man? Thank you so much for allowing me to be on this, dude. I am honored. I am super honored. When you asked me, you say, yo, can you jump on this podcast? I was elated because I got to hang out with you, man. So I've gotten to watch you. I've got to see your ministry and your marketplace ministry. And it's just been an inspiration, man. So listen, I counted a joy, an honor to be sitting with the Kymone Hinds. So
that's funny.
Let's
that's
go.
Good, man. Dude, you know, it's so funny.
I just wish my background was as good as yours. You got all these people who jump on this podcast of these amazing backgrounds. And I'm like, I'm just a simple fellow with a white room, white walls, a little picture on the wall, my little home office. So humble here. But one day I'm going to be on you guys' level.
Hey,
sure.
Man, listen. For my audience, this brother's humble. Wisdom is gonna come from this man today. So forget the backgrounds, man. This brother's gonna bring it. When I was making my list of people who I thought about when I was starting this podcast, I got to interview this person and this person. Dude, you were on my list as one of the first people because from the moment I met you, you embodied to me monetizing ministry and marketplace. You embodied that. I'm gonna just tell a quick story of how we met. I remember we're in the hallway of a church during a conference, and you were an exhibitor with a ministry called Elijah 3 Ministries. Yeah. And it was ministry, but you were also, man, I just caught this passion from you. And man, I could tell you had skills in like marketing and sales, because whatever you were selling, man, I was buying. And I just saw your journey from there to church leading or whatever. But talk to us about your background. What did you start off in terms of what you studied, what you started off in terms of career? Talk to us a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I had the most non-traditional route, man. Non-traditional route. I'm gonna tell you guys right now. And I don't know if I'm gonna mess up the pedigree that's been on this podcast, but real talk, I'm a high school dropout, bro. I dropped out of high school in 10th grade and I only had 9th grade credits. So literally I dropped out of high school as a 9th grader. But the reality is I got bored of sitting at home. And I was just like, man, I'm 16. I'm about to sit home and play video games all day, every day. And so I found a loophole to get me into college early. So I actually skipped all the grades and jumped into college, started college. And then, you know, just a dysfunctional life of a young person. I stopped, jumped out. But it never stopped my hustle, my grind. I think a lot of my creativity, a lot of my hustle came from me going a non-traditional way. So like I said, you know, I dropped out of high school in the 9th grade, but I found a way to get myself into college through some loopholes.
Mm-hmm.
I dropped out of college and found my way climbing a corporate career. And by the time I was 26, without a high school diploma or a college degree, I found myself as a vice president of a regional company. And so I've just learned to hustle, learn to grind, and start from the bottom up. And so my background is in marketing. I started working for a healthcare company as an administrative assistant, went into operations, went into marketing, left there. We launched an ad agency. Ad agency was doing pretty well for itself, and did a few things there, nonprofit style stuff of, you know, encouraging college students, helping them get into their careers through resume workshops and internships. All the while, I still don't have a college degree or a high school diploma.
Crazy. Wow.
You know, and then I was watching some news program and it talked about just education is our greatest civil right. And something clicked inside of me. I was like, man, that's the one thing that can never be taken away, because if all of my business went away, if everything went away, if I went into a company, they'll say that's good and great, but you don't have a college degree. This is back in the day when college degrees really made a difference. And so I went back to school and got a degree in communication and organizational management, and just continued my career. And it's crazy because after I graduated with this degree in communication, organizational management, the Lord pulled me out of the marketplace and called me into full-time vocational ministry. And so I started working for a nonprofit, Elijah 3. It was a startup. A friend of mine, actually one of my former interns at my ad agency, hired me as his operations director and his development director. And within a few months of me being there, he was like, dude, you are a lot better at running organizations than I am. How about I'll do everything else and you just be the executive director? And so that's when you met me. I just become the executive director, and it was a great ride. Amazing. We developed curriculum for youth ministry, urban youth ministry, got to work with some really cool, you know, Christian rap artists and authors and all of that. And then God pulled me into the local church. And so I accepted an assignment to be a part of the local church and was there for a couple of years. And then God called me to plant a church. And so we planted a life-giving church in a local community that I never thought I was going to go to, never wanted to go to. But again, God has this thing in my life of allowing me to get it from the mud. I walked into a community. I didn't know anyone. I knew 2 people I went to college with, and none of them showed up to my church. And so I had to plant this church from the ground up, not knowing anyone. And God has been absolutely, absolutely incredible. It's been 7 years later. We're thriving. We're growing. We got a staff. Nice. We're seeing people come to faith in Jesus. And so, yeah, that's a little bit of my story, man.
Dude, I hear a lot of startup.
Absolutely, man.
Like business startup, right? Like ministry startup, and now church startup. Yeah. Talk to us about. I'll start with this. Did you see any of your skills that you were working with in the corporate world, right, and in the nonprofit world? Do you see any of that translating when you now shifted into the ministry and into the church world?
Absolutely, man. I'm telling you, I wish more seminaries combine MBAs and seminary degrees. Because when pastors are walking into a church, there's a lot of skills. I think, I see a lot of like, I'm going to answer your question in a second, but I see a lot of like social work and MDiv, or Master of Divinity, for those who may not be familiar with that terminology. I see psychology and MDiv. But rarely do I see MBA MDiv, communication MDiv, because you're going to need all these things. You're running an organization, you're communicating a message, you are marketing a message. And so I was privileged to have a background in communication and marketing and organizational management and development, because all of these skills literally translated to ministry. The cool thing that I've been able to experience is a lot of my friends are like, man, dude, who developed your websites? I'm like, I did. And they're like, man, who does all your marketing? I'm like, I do. I'm like, man, who does your design? I do. Because these are the skills that I was able to develop. Yeah, over time, we've had graphic designers that have joined team and all of that. But I'm also a little bit of like a marketing Nazi. And so I'm very particular in certain things that I want. And so over time, a lot of the major design I would do, or I would work in combination with other graphic designers, but I knew how to speak their language, or other marketers, and I'd know how to speak their language. While some people are like, hey, just give me something nice. I can say, no, I don't like the way that communicates. I don't like the message it communicates. I don't like that font, because that font is a little bit too aggressive, or that font is a little outdated, or, these types of things. So I would say every single one of my skills in the marketplace, I was able to translate into ministry. And I'll tell you, the one thing that I wasn't ready for is when you pay people and then you got volunteers, those are two different worlds.
That's funny.
That's the one thing that I wish somebody would have told me about.
Yep. I had a just for those who are new to the podcast, I pastored for 15 years. And then one of my pastoral assignments, one of my really dedicated volunteers was a vice president at a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah, that's good.
He was like, folks, and we know how it is. Folks have lives, right? So I'm not throwing shade at folks. Folks have lives, but like when we talk about commitment isn't the highest thing on some people's like the toolbox. So sometimes folks would say I'm coming and they just don't show up. That dude was like, yo, man, how do you do this? Because I want to fire everybody.
They want to fire everybody, man. Listen,
like, man, you can't fire these people, man. It's volunteers.
Dude, listen, I got a funny story on that too. My executive pastor, I know this is probably not what the podcast is about, but I have to mention it. Yeah. My executive pastor also comes out of the marketplace. She was a TV producer. And so when she came on staff, she didn't understand the dynamics of working with volunteers and how much more empathy you must have, how much more grace. Now, the beauty about this, side note, after being in ministry and working with volunteers at this level, this now, I think, prepares someone to really go back into the marketplace, because there's a new level of empathy and a new level of grace that you can have with your employees. There's a new level of interpersonal communication, I think, that does not exist in the corporate world that you can learn in the church. But anyway, my executive pastor comes on. First assignment, she was like, how many people can I fire? How many volunteers can I fire? She was like, these people are not shaping up. Like, we need to let them go. We need to bring other people. I'm like, listen, you're not going to go hire a whole new staff of volunteers. You got to develop them. You got to love them. You got to coach them. You got to lead them. And I think sometimes, and that has been a benefit of being in a church plant, is because you don't have that big corporate budget of churches that are either denominational or churches that are campus churches of larger churches. You can't just go hire out everything. So you've got to actually develop people. And my passion in developing leaders has really been able to be utilized because I was doing that in the marketplace. You know, God gave me a gift to develop people from where they are to where God would call them to be. Even while I was in the marketplace, that was my heartbeat. And so, yeah, man.
Dude, I see that. I hear that. And, you know, it's funny we'll go back to your youth ministry, you know, because it feels like that developing of people is a skill that you develop, that you find and you hone in on and you kind of even build working with youth, because you got to develop.
Absolutely.
But you said something, man. I have to say this. Right? So we're talking about you going marketplace to ministry, and really you never really left the marketplace because you're still an entrepreneur. But there's also the part of what we talk about in this podcast is going from ministry, and by that we mean like the skills you develop even in the church world. How are we taking that out into the marketplace? You said something about people who move from ministry to marketplace. There's a level of empathy. There's some what we call soft skills that you carry with you. And I made this statement the other day that what the marketplace needs is what the church has.
Yeah,
and
100%. I saw you make that statement. That was big.
I want you to reflect on that, because I feel like sometimes we don't recognize what when we really interact in the marketplace. You recognize, people have the tools, they have the technology, but those soft skills that you develop, it feels like that's a missing link. Kind of talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, man, that's really huge. And I remember you mentioning that, dude. There's so many posts that you post that I'm just like, I screenshot and save. I remember I was flying back from Kansas City, and literally one of your, I can find it in my phone, one of your statements blew my mind. I showed my wife. I said, this is what I'm talking. This is what God has been speaking to me about. Like, listen to Kymone. Like, he's going somewhere with this, And so I just really appreciate the wisdom that you share in your social media platforms, in your podcast, because honestly, dude, you're changing lives. You're shifting mindsets, and you're actually creating a new generation of leaders that think beyond marketplace and think beyond ministry and say, like, all life is worship, all life is ministry. And so I just want to honor you and thank you for that, because you are leading a new generation, and you're leading the pack. So I appreciate you for that. But the life skills, the soft skills that you can take from ministry to the marketplace, it's simply this. When you're in the marketplace, the budget rules because you pay for everything. In ministry, you don't always have the budget for everything. So you learn to really ideate and create. And so you learn how to really flex your creativity in a way that the marketplace doesn't often have that capacity, because I could just go pay for it. I can just go hire a new person, and then when they stop being useful, I just fire them. So we just use people. But in ministry, you realize that every person in your organization is a gift. They don't have to be there. They want to be there. So there's a new level of love, empathy, care, gratitude, grace that you have for individuals that help you lead and develop people at a greater rate than you would in the marketplace. If somebody's not working out, I can just shift their position. In ministry, if somebody's not working out, well, I ain't got nobody else. So it's time to coach and develop and lead this person into becoming who I know that they can be.
Yeah.
And so I feel like within creativity, within innovation, man, I'm telling you, people in ministry have no clue.
Come on.
The edge that they have on corporate America. Because we have to innovate.
Yeah.
We literally have to be able to create ex nihilo from nothing. Right?
Yeah.
And so I really believe a lot of guys who end up going back to the marketplace realize, especially if they left the marketplace and went back into the marketplace, I don't know if you're realizing this as somebody who did that, is like, yo, it's so much easier in the marketplace. Especially taking these skills now, because now I can really be on the edge of development. I can really build a team. I can build a dream team, because not only do I have the capacity to coach them and lead them, but now I can pay them. Oh, bro, it opens up a whole new ball game. Right. Because remember, people don't leave organizations, they leave people.
Yeah.
So when corporate executives are like, oh, this person's jumping from company to company because they're just climbing the corporate ladder, you know what? If that person was actually felt seen, heard, and valued in your corporation, they would probably never leave.
That's right. And Muta, you saying this, right? Think about this. So one, creativity, right?
Absolutely.
What's a benefit and a strength that you take from ministry into the marketplace? Creativity.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, man. Like you look at things in a way where it's like, okay, the absence of resources does not stop you. It's like, okay, how can we make it happen? But
Absolutely.
secondly, though, think about what our nation, if you go to any store right now, it's like we're people. It's a help wanted sign. We need
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And part of that is because people don't feel cared for by organizations. And if there's something that ministry can bring into the marketplace, is that empathy and care, and there's that compassionate view of helping people and seeing something in them that that no one sees in them. They may not even seeing themselves, and then working to develop that out of
Yeah.
them. So I think that you hit that so well, man. And then as I'm looking at the stuff on your bio, development just seems like it's a theme that runs through the things that you've done. Talk to
Absolutely.
us about youth ministry then, and even some of the youth ministry you're doing now. How has that helped you in your work, working with youth? It helped you in your business work, and how has it helped you in your work, even now leading as senior pastor, leading with adults? Kind of talk about that.
Man, yeah, that's a very good question. I'm going to see if I can organize my thoughts, because as you're talking, there's like 3 billion thoughts coming up. So I believe the question that you're asking, how has my background in youth ministry contributed to what I'm doing now, and how I lead?
Yeah.
Man, let me tell you, if there's anybody who's watching this who wants to be a pastor, senior pastor, and you're not a senior pastor, go do youth ministry. If there's anybody here who wants to start a business from the ground up, go find a church that doesn't have a youth ministry and start it.
That's good.
Because everything from, oh my gosh, to be a youth pastor, you got to be entrepreneurial, man, especially if there's no youth ministry already there. Because the one thing that youth will do is they will see through all of your crap. They will see whether you're real or you're not. They'll see whether you're really committed or you're not. They'll see whether you care about them or you don't. They'll see whether you care about the ministry or you don't, or the gospel that you're preaching or you don't. Youth have this discerning capability that makes you say, I gotta be on my P's and Q's if I'm going to lead these groups of individuals. And so honestly, bro, for me, I was unique because I started in an urban church that did not really have a youth ministry, and we were surrounded by the hood. Like, we were surrounded by projects. And we had a couple of kids come into the church who would bring their friends. And one day there was a fight that happened, and people were like, what are we going to do with these kids? You know? And I asked the question. I was like, man, listen, would you rather them be here or trying to break into our cars? Well, yeah. So let's just be happy that they're here. But then I sat back and I was like, I don't know anything about youth ministry. I don't know anything about, kids. I had a little toddler at the time. That was my first child. And high school students used to get on my nerves because I thought they were just obnoxious. But honestly, realizing that they're looking for inspiration, they're looking to grow, to be seen, to be heard. And whether it's a product, whether it's a ministry, your product or your ministry is to people. People are looking for a need, and they're looking for that need to be filled. So that people have a need and they're looking for that need to be filled. And so for my youth ministry, it was kids wanted to feel seen, they wanted to be loved, and they wanted church to be fun. And so how do I take something, and my church that I was in was pretty old school. So how do I take something that seems antiquated and irrelevant and make it relevant to a group of individuals and convince them that this is the place they need to be and they need to bring their friends? Bro, that's marketing.
Yeah.
Now I've got a message that I'm trying to communicate, and I'm trying to build an audience that not only is captured by this product that I'm providing, but in the end becomes brand ambassadors that go out and bring more people in.
It's business, man. You're giving a business class right
That's
here.
it.
Man. Yeah. It's like meet a need, find a need, meet that need, package it in a way that speaks to the audience that you're targeting.
Right.
And that's youth ministry, that's business, that's church ministry, that's leading a church plant. That's the same thing. You got to find a need, find a group that has that need, and package something in a way that they see the value in it.
It's life, man. Jesus showed up to a well, knew that there was a woman there with a need, told her how that she could have that need fulfilled, showed her that she had the capacity to experience it at a level that would create such peace, joy, and fruit in her life that when she got a hold of this thing, she ran back into her community and said, yo, we all need this.
Yeah.
Come see this guy who's filled the need in my life, who's filled the gap in my life. And the reason she did that is because she knew there were other people with that gap. You know, and so that's really what it is. The demoniac, sorry, this is ministry, right? The demoniac, Jesus shows up, this guy has a need, he fills that need. This guy says, man, I want to be with you.
Let me come with you. Yeah.
Let me come with you. And he said, can I tell you, that is my favorite story in the Bible. He says, no.
Go home.
Just go tell people what I did for you.
Yeah.
Go share with them what you've experienced. And what we know about the Decapolis, this 10 region city, this 10 city region is now evangelized by a dude who used to be crazy in the graveyard. And when the Christians show up, there's already a community of believers.
Dude, it's crazy.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, youth ministry really helped me because you have to be creative. So one of the things that I did, dude, youth, and the reason I said this, my mind went all over the place, because literally youth ministry or ministry to young adults was the stage that the Lord set for me to do everything that I'm doing right now. So I'll see if I can give it to you quick. So me holding these resume workshops and career building workshops at the university in my area taught me public speaking. It taught me networking and connecting people, how to be a connector. So not only networking for me, but networking for other people, like connecting people. So that really allowed me to learn the skills of what it took to, hey, Kymone's got a product, this guy's got a product, and if I bring them together, I'm the common denominator.
Yeah, there you go.
So I'm providing value to them, but when they know that they need value, they're gonna come to me, number one, or number two, if I need something from them, there's reciprocity. They'll know that I can reach out to them, you know, and they'll be able to help me out. On the youth ministry, the high school ministry is these kids will come to the church. The pastor's words were going over their head. Most of these kids had never been in church before. So I needed to package curriculum. I needed to teach them. I didn't call it curriculum at first. I needed to create lessons that ministered to these kids in their context at their level. I didn't know that this was the foundation of being a curriculum developer. 5 years later, I'm now working as a curriculum developer for the world's largest African-American Christian publishing company. And I'm a consultant for them. I go into ministry and I need to teach the church different things. Sermon series are nothing but curriculum.
That's right. Just broken up over weeks.
But I learned all of these skills doing youth and young adult ministry.
That's good.
If I never did any of those things, I would have never been prepared for this.
That's so good.
entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
So literally going and starting this this youth ministry, going and hitting the streets. Literally, I know a lot of financial advisors, Edward Jones. Oh, sorry, probably not supposed to be shouting people out, but they literally knock on doors and connect with people in the community. Bro, I was coming into the hood, like not like the dope man, but I had a new product to sell.
The hope man, the hope man.
I was the hope man, right? I was the hope man, connecting with people. Hey, this is what we got. This is what we're going on. Hey, can you come and be a part of this? And just being able to connect with the community and community partners and throwing events and all those types of things. Honestly, bro, it set the groundwork for where I'm at today. I'm grateful for those knuckleheaded kids who I get to see. I bumped into one of them in the mall and she was like, Pastor Muta? And I was just like, yo, wow. I hadn't seen this kid in 12, 13, 14 years. And now she's a grown woman with a family of her own. Wow. You know? So
dude,
I don't know if any of that was helpful,
man, you said so much life, man. Listen, y'all are listening, watching the Monetizing Ministry podcast. Our guest today is Muta Mwenya. Pastor Muta. Muta, you said something, and I just hope people are catching this. A lot of times we do not see the connections that God makes between the different things in our journey. Yeah. So we sometimes diminish our experiences, especially if we are moving between the church world or the ministry world. And for us, we believe, right, all life is ministry. Mm-hmm. But we move in between the traditional church world and then we move out into the business space, the marketplace. Mm-hmm. We say, well, all I did was youth ministry. All I did was, lead a group or whatever. All I did. And when you peel it back and you begin to look at, okay, skill development. Yeah. Forget what I was paid for it, right? Forget that. If you're not paid anything, that's fine. But what did you do? What role did you have? You recognize how transferable those skills are and really how much God was developing you for the thing he was developing for you. Like, so he was developing in you back then for developing something in you for the things that he would put you in places he put you in 3 years later, 5 years later. And now, how many years later, what you're doing now. And I want to get to what you're doing now.
Hey, Muta, can I say something about what you just said? Something that was really big, and I really want somebody to hear this. I want somebody to really hear this. Everything that I get paid for now, I did free before and had no clue that I was going to monetize it. Wow. That's everything good. That I get paid to do now, I was doing for free 20 years ago. Wow. And I didn't know that this was where my career, this is what I was going to be doing. My first website I created was for my church. Because they needed the website created. So I was like, I'm going to learn how to create a website. My first graphic design piece that I made was from my church. And so the first curriculum I wrote was from my church. And this may be talking to all the church volunteers out there. Love on your church and God will bless you.
You're right. No, I mean, look, think about this, man. Like, I'm glad you stopped me there because this is so important. Yeah. There's some young person right now who's like, man, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I'm trying to figure this thing out. If you are a believer and you belong to any church community, you have an advantage. Because you can begin to try out things, join a ministry, try that thing out for a while. Man, if you don't like that, go try another one, right? Because they let you hold expensive equipment and use it, right?
They're literally putting cameras in your computers. Yeah. They're giving you, listen, my first software was bought by the church. Yeah. Like all of this stuff is like they hand this to you because they just need somebody to do it. And you don't realize that, hey, I'm just giving back to my local church and God is setting up the trajectory for you to monetize everything that you're learning. I tell people all the time, the church is the best place to explore your giftings.
Absolutely.
So try it. Because you can do it and they're just happy that you're helping.
Hey, they're not gonna fire you.
They ain't gonna fire you. Except for the relevant church. I got an executive pastor that loves to fire volunteers.
No, but you're saying, I mean, like, I'm so glad we latched onto this. I think it's so important for people to understand that if you are wanting to explore what is my thing, what areas can I, there are places within the community and within the body of Christ, within the church community, within this space where you can try almost anything. You can build, like you are building websites, creating curriculum, right? Doing graphic design, and people get paid money to do that stuff. So try it, man. Like if y'all listening to this, do not diminish what God has given you, and do not be afraid to try something.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have launched my ad agency and I wouldn't have been able to pitch other clients if I didn't prove that I was able to produce content that was actually what's the word I'm saying? That actually produced measurable results.
Yeah, that's good.
The first ad campaign I ran was for my church's youth ministry event. And shout out my boy Jason North, because he was the speaker at that event.
Nice. Jay North.
Yeah.
Dude, so I think it takes a special, like, something to say, I'm going to plant a church, right? Because this is my experience with church planting. This is our experience, my family and I. It was like a blind date, man. You just never knew what would happen on any weekend. There were some weekends we were literally setting up, and we didn't know who was showing up, bro. We were like, okay, God told us to do this. We're setting up all of this equipment and this, and putting out welcome signs and all of this stuff. And like, bro, we don't know if we're the only ones gonna be there after we do all this setup, man. Talk to us about your journey into church planting. And I also want you to talk to us about the bivocational method of your church planting, because Muta, no one just dropped a mill on you, just said, hey, go do this, and all your bills paid. So talk to us about that.
Bro, one of my boys just planted a church with $500,000 just off rip. Before his first weekend service, he had $500,000 in the bank. Wow. Lord, these guys are planting churches now in wild ways. Another buddy of mine, $350,000. Another guy, $180,000. They planted their church, and I'm just like, I started my church with $9,000.
Wow,
$9,000. Don't ever do how I did church. I'm like, I'll tell you, you said that planting the church is like being on a blind date, man. It's like being on a blind date with somebody who I can't even say, because it's probably gonna be politically incorrect, but it's an ordeal. It's an ordeal. Dude, honestly, y'all want to know you guys probably see me, you probably come on hearing me go back. I keep tracking back to the youth ministry days and old school, because honestly, the reality is all of that was a lead up. It was a lead up. So how did I get to planting the church? Well, here's the trajectory. I was part of a local church. I was in the marketplace. I saw a need. We needed a youth ministry. So I developed a youth ministry. I had to gather students. I had to get the church to be invested into this vision. So I had to convince stakeholders to say what he wants to do is worth investing in. I got them to send me to youth conferences. I got them to help me purchase different materials. And I had to galvanize a group of individuals to go out and be the mouthpiece of this ministry to go get more individuals. Well, I did this.
Yep.
I did this and left the church that I was at. When I left the church I was at, I was kind of, that's a whole nother story for a different time. But whatever the case may be, another church, I started going there and I met the pastor. He found out that I had a youth ministry that I was meeting with in the community. He said, man, I need a youth pastor here. And I said, well, I'll be willing to come help out. He said, can you bring those students here? I brought those students to that church. And then he said, hey, I know you've got some background in marketing, because I was still working in marketing and nonprofit work. So I said, hey, can you come and bring those things to me? I joined a church plant. We were meeting in a movie theater. And so when I got there, they were only 3 years old. So I'm learning real time. Me and the pastor became really good friends. He invites me on staff. So I'm literally learning every day what a church plant is like. And he's an incredible leadership development guy, very good connector, a great preacher as well too. And so I'm learning, and I just submit myself to learning. I end up leaving the job. So I leave the marketplace totally. And I accept an internship. Now, listen, I got 2 kids. My wife has just resigned from her job because she wants to be a stay-at-home mom. I resigned from my job, and we accept an internship making $400 a month total. We move in with my parents because I believe this is what we're supposed to do. My parents end up moving out of the country. They tell us they're selling the house, so get out in 2 months. We move to the community. God works it out. But again, I'm learning, I'm growing. And then while I'm there, after 2 years being there, God really lays it on my heart to go to a community that we really didn't want to go to, a community that we never expected to be in, to go plant a life-giving church. And so my wife and I, we packed up our bags, moved to this community 36 miles south of where we lived. Because I didn't know anybody in the community, I had to get to know people in the community. So I had a buddy from high school who owned a Radio Shack. And I asked him, I said, bro, can I work at your Radio Shack? Because number one, I need to make some money. Number two, I need to be able to get to know, see people walking in and out of the store, just kind of get to know the heart of the community. And then I found a little local cafe that I just set up shop in there. I'd go in there and work. And so that's how I ended up. That was my journey, man. And got to know the community and started building from there.
Dude, I love that. And I love the fact you said it as that's a small part of the story, but that's setting up shop at a cafe. Just being in a public place where people come to all the time, where you become a regular. I think just for any person out there, this is not usually one of the things we share on the podcast, but if you are wanting to make impact in people's lives and you're a believer, go where people are.
Go where people are. Be present,
go where
man.
people are. Yeah.
Be present with people, man. And one thing that Jesus did, he was just present. He was just present, you know. I have to tell, the church that I started as an intern, they ended up hiring me on staff, and I ended up being, you know, the youth pastor and the teaching pastor there. And so I went full time there after about 6 months. But yeah, just wanted to share that little piece.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, Muta, I still see, I saw an ad the other day come across my Facebook for Engage Conference.
Yeah.
So even though you're leading your congregation, you have not stopped innovating and pushing the boundaries of creativity and doing things like conferences and creating curriculum. Kind of talk to us about some of the things you're doing now outside of Leading Relevant. And I do want to come to the Leadership College in a little while, but tell us some of the things you're doing in your creative space. Yeah,
man. Well, Engage Conference, I still to this day don't know how the heck I got involved with the Engage Conference. I was at their offices.
You the face of that.
Listen, I was at their offices in Kansas City a few months back, and there was a few kind of what would they call them, faculty of Engage Conference, and we were there shooting some new content for the upcoming year. And we all sitting around and everybody's like, yo, so how did you become a part of Engage Conference? How did you become a part of, this group? And I was like, honestly, I have no clue. Till this day, I don't know. All I remember is I got a message with somebody asking me, could I submit a talk for this conference that was happening? And it was right in the middle of COVID. It was in 2020. They were like, hey, we're going to do this online conference. There's going to be, a bunch of speakers. We plan on promoting it to, the world or whatever. There's going to be, 50 countries, 75, 80 countries represented. There's going to be over 20,000 participants. Would you submit a session? So I submitted a session, and 12 24 hours later, they're like, cool, it's accepted. Produce, the video. So we had to submit our own video. So wrote the session, submitted the video, and I got a phone call from the organizer, and she was like, your session was the most watched and engaged session all over the world, not just in the US, like all over the world. And they were like, we need you to submit for next year as well too. And so I submitted for the next year, and they were like, yo, that session, people are asking for that session. Like, people are signing on just because of your session. And so that was a relationship that's been developed. And so I would submit for the conference. And ever since then, I've now started doing master classes for them.
Nice.
And so I'm teaching master classes on really people development. So on
told you, man. That's I know
enrollment, enrolling leaders, developing leaders. I've done a few things on hospitality, but most of it is volunteer engagement, volunteer development, and leadership development is kind of been my sweet spot in this area. So that's what I'm doing with Engage Conference. I love that. I also, I'm just available to organizations and churches who want to know more about leadership development, about hospitality. Guest services is my huge thing. I worked for Walt Disney in the past, so guest services is my guest experience is one of my favorite things. I hate bad customer service. And so I feel like a lot of churches have bad customer service. They've got bad guest experience. So I've had the opportunity to begin to coach and lead other churches to increase their guest experience. Because check this out, Walt Disney World has a 70% first-time guest return rate. And people who go to Walt Disney spend anywhere between $3,000 to $11,000 for a family of 3 to 5 to go for 3 days. 70% guest return rate. So let's just say the average was $5,000. So if I go this year, I skip a year and I go the next year, in 3 years, I spend $10,000 at Disney. Most people don't give $10,000 to their church in 2 years.
Wow.
And they have a 70% guest return rate. The average church has 6 to 10% first-time guest return rate. So we're doing something wrong. We're missing the boat. So I've started really helping coach churches develop their guest experience, develop their volunteers, develop their leaders. I've had the amazing opportunity to preach quite a bit, and I guess developed, I say this humbly, I guess develop a gift in preaching and teaching, where a lot of people have asked me. It started really with my team asking me like, hey, how do you preach? How, if I ask a team member, I use this. I started to develop a curriculum to develop my communicators in my church. And so everything that I do, honestly, starts with me just doing it for my local church. And then it ends up being monetized. And so when I first started out in ministry, and preaching every single weekend, man, like when you become a pastor, senior pastor, and you got to preach every weekend,
the weekends come real fast.
And that weekend comes real fast, man. It was daunting. And honestly, I found myself hating sermon prep. Like, that was the bane of my existence. I didn't mind communicating, but the sermon prep just felt like it was grueling. It just took hours, so much so that I started hating preaching because of sermon prep. So one day I was like, man, there's got to be a better way. So I kind of formulated a way to write a sermon in the best possible way, to study, to prepare. And I started using this tool, and it increased my prep time. It made my sermons deeper. It made them broader. It made people engage with them a whole lot more. People started enjoying my sermons a lot more. I stopped deleting my sermons off of YouTube and podcasts and leaving them up because people wanted to listen to them more. But then a lot of people would ask me, team members or whatnot, when I was developing them to preach, I would say, man, I've got this tool. The best way for me to say it, I had this tool that I use for myself. Somebody was speaking for a conference at my church, who was one of our team members for a women's conference. And she says, PM, can you help me preach? Can you help me learn? They call me PM, Pastor Muta. Can you help me prepare for this? And I said, well, I'll give you the notes of how I develop my message. So I wrote down my notes, and as I was writing, I was like, well, let me add, because she's going to need a little bit more. She's going to need a little bit more. And from there, literally, I developed a 20-something page document resource to help you write your sermon easier. She used it and wrecked it. So I was like, oh, this might be something. So I sent it to a couple of my friends, like, what do you think? And one of my mentors, big shout out, Doug Rasick, over at Rush City Church in Ohio. I sent him my sermon resource, and he was like, bro, I will give you $1,000 right now to develop it. I was so into it, $1,000 right now. And so from then on, I developed Sermons Made Easy. So it's a resource, and the full course is coming out in a couple of weeks. There's going to be videos, going to have the document. I already have the document. Sorry, that was really jumbled up, but I get so excited about some of the things that God has allowed me to work on. And so I've got that, I've got the book coming out.
Dude, but let me pause you here, man. You said, think about this. You did something. You had a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You went, figured out a solution. Someone else had a similar problem. You created something to help them. You recognize, wait a minute, maybe this is let me check to see if other people might need this. So I send it, you send it around to some people, test the market. Yo, I'm interested. Somebody was interested enough to give you money.
Yeah.
That's sign number one, right? If you want to know if your thing is legit, do a pre-sale. Do something where people can give you money before, because that's the only way you really know if they're interested.
Absolutely.
And then you made it a resource, and then you're scaling it up. And for anyone, listen, I don't want to ever let you listen to watch an episode without getting something that you could put into practice for your own business. That you just told us exactly how to do it, man. Like, there's a need for me. Okay, create a solution. See if there's other people who have that same need. Put it out there for some feedback, and then put the small minimum viable product. Okay, small resource. And then scale that thing up. You don't have to keep running 10 different directions, and scale that thing up. And so I love it, man. I love it. Listen,
I think I know we're cutting short on time, but I think there's something that people need to realize. And this is my story. It may be, a lot of people see me and they think I'm like this crazy entrepreneur who I come up with an idea. Let me just go market this and let me do this. I'm telling you, everything that I've monetized, again, has not started because I wanted to monetize it. It's literally just been the tool in my hand. Think about it like this. Moses, when God called him to go to Egypt, he says, what's in your hand? He had a staff. Shamgar, he had an ox goad. The widow, she had jars. She had a little bit of oil, and they said, go get jars. So she had the oil. And so with everything that I did, this sermon resource never really started out to be something that was going to be marketed. It just helped me. And then I helped somebody else. And then my team was like, hey, how can you help us become better preachers? I used the resource with them. And then when everybody was like, yo, this is kind of hot. This is great. You should sell this. I was like, wait a minute. Huh? Really? Mm-hmm. And so I sent it to a couple of friends who I trusted their opinion, And so a lot of times we think I got to sit down and innovate. What can I do? What can I sell? What can I create? The thing that you need to monetize, can I tell you, you already have it. It's already there. You just need to look what's in your hands. Stop thinking about what everybody else is doing. There's guys doing so many different things. And you're like, man, I need to do it like them. I need to do it like them. Let me need to do it like them. You don't need to do it like anybody else. You need to do it like you. That's right. You are the prototype. Monetize what's in your hands.
Muta, that was one of those mic drop moments right there, dude. That was good. I need you to tell us, because somebody's wanting to connect with you. They want to connect with what you're doing at Relevant Church. They also want to connect with what you're doing with Relevant Leadership College. Yeah. And they want to connect with what you're doing in just your general stuff, man. Like this, they want more Muta. So just tell us, man. Tell us the places, and I'm going to pop them up on the screen. So tell us where we can connect with you.
No doubt. Social is I am Muta Mwenya. That's IAMMUTA MWENYA. I know it's long, but listen, I'm African and I'm proud of it. And so I'm going to show my name. Y'all lucky I didn't put the whole thing. Butangala Mwenya. Listen, stand up, Zambia.
Do I have it right? Let me see.
Yeah, you have it right. I am Muta Mwenya. So everything's social. I'm on Threads. I love Threads. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Check me out there. And then my website, mutamwenya.com. You can find some of these resources that I have. I got another resource called 31 Days of Crushing It. Again, it came out of me being undisciplined and not being able to focus myself. And so I said, man, for 31 days, I'm going to focus on the goal and I'm going to commit to it and I'm going to remove obstacles and I'm going to do everything for 31 days. And outside of that, my wife was like, hey, babe, I've got this goal. And I said, hey, try doing this 31 days that I've been doing. And so we did it together. And then a few people in my church were like, man, I'm struggling to do this. I'm struggling with this. I'm like, hey, try it. Let's just put a group together, 31 days of crushing it. And we did it. And everybody blasted through their goals. And from then on, it started 31 days of crushing it. So if you have a goal you want to meet, a challenge that you want to accomplish, 31 Days of Crushing It can help you. You can find all about all of that at mutamwenya.com.
Dude, give us the church website, man. Come on.
Yeah, for real. Like, so
somebody, I mean, some people may be in your ear, but some people may want to just even give to what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Relevant. This is relevant.cc. This is relevant.cc. Relevant Church is our church. This is relevant.cc. Go find out what we're doing. I love my church. It has literally been a gift from the Lord. Again, one of those things that I didn't go out looking for. I just felt called to it and I stepped into it. It hasn't been easy, but literally God has blessed, provided. We actually, Kymone, and you didn't even know that, like after 2020, our church was decimated. It was decimated. Like we came back and there was a handful of people. I mean, literally we went from hundreds of people to 65 people our first weekend back. And we've since grown, double. We've gone back to multiple services again now, and it's just been amazing. We've got an incredible team of volunteers, but God has just been really amazing with Relevant Church and Relevant Leadership College. If anybody is interested in becoming a gospel-shaped leader in ministry of the marketplace, Relevant Leadership College, we say RLC is the place to be. So it's a 2-year Bible and ministry, Bible and leadership college, and we call it more of an apprenticeship. It allows you to take what you're learning and put it right into your daily life. And RLC changes lives. I mean, literally, people have graduated from RLC, have gotten raises. We had somebody, their boss showed up to work. They'd worked for this company for like 5-6 years. Their boss showed up to church, and they were like, they've been talking about RLC, and this person has totally changed. Wow. And I need to know what the heck you guys are doing. Because if your program is changing people like this, I'm going to send more students to your program. And so, Relevant Leadership College. I mean, we've seen people leave and become directors who were just mid-level managers to become, high-level managers, people who were just regular employees to becoming leaders on their job. We've had people leave ministry and leave marketplace and go into ministry. And so, literally, I could talk for days. I'm a preacher, so I'm going to shut up now. But God has just been faithful, and so thank you for allowing me to be a part of this, dude.
Dude, listen. First of all, man, just want to tell you thank you for making the time, and just for sharing, man. There was so much that I got out of this confirmation for me, and I know it'll be confirmation for someone else. Muta, I just want to pray. Just share and just say God's blessings over you,
thank you, bro,
your family, your business, your ministry, your church, everything that God has put in your way, man. I just want to pray God's blessings over you. You have helped somebody today to recognize that the thing that they're doing has value. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be complicated to get started. It really doesn't. It's simple. And so for somebody who's watching this today, we just want to encourage you. Like, you have something that God has put in your hands, something that God has put in your heart. And that thing here has value. So I just want to encourage you that your ministry has value and has a place in the marketplace. Go take it out into the world.
Thank you for listening to the Monetize Your Ministry podcast with Kymone Hinds. For more information, visit our website at www.monetizeyourministrypodcast.com. That's www.monetizeyourministrypodcast.com. Find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Please share this episode with someone who needs it. Let's increase our income and impact.